Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to show you how to crochet these sushis. These are fairly easy to make and do not require much yarn. The materials that you're going to be needing is some black yarn, some yarn for your sushi portion, some white yarn for the rice, and you're going to be needing a darning needle for the mouth, and you're also going to be needing some scissors. So again, you need 3 types of yarn, you need a hook, and you need a darning needle. And if you have button-on eyes, you can use those, but in this video I will show you how to sew on the eyes because I do not have a button-on eyes. As you can see, these are 2 different sizes. I made this one with a 2.25mm crochet hook, and I made this one with a 3.75mm crochet hook. And now that that's all out of the way, we can begin. To start off our sushi, we're going to first make a slip knot. And then we're going to go ahead and grab our hook, and we're going to do a chain of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we're going to go ahead and skip the very first stitch and do a single crochet into the next 7 stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we have 1 chain left at the end, and into that chain we're going to go ahead and do 4 single crochets. So into this very last chain we're going to do 4. And once you're single crocheting, you should see a turn happening. So we have our first single crochet, our second single crochet. Now we're going to turn our work around sideways and into the same stitch. We're going to go ahead and do a third single crochet, and our last one, our 4th single crochet. And now we're going to go ahead and work into the back bumps of the chain that we did. And we're going to go ahead and do 6 single crochets. So go ahead and find your next available loop. Mine is right here. So that's going to be my first single crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you have your 6, we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into the very last space right there, and we're going to do an increase. And that is the end of round 1, and you should have a total of 19 stitches. Now you're going to go ahead and grab your stitch marker or a different colored yarn, which is what I'm going to do. So I have my other strand of yarn right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and place it right in front of the last stitch that I just did. And now what you want to do is you want to count back 19 so you can find your first stitch that you're going to work into for the next round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So my first stitch is right there. So the first thing that we're going to do for round 2 is we're going to insert our hook into our very first stitch, and we're going to do an increase. Excuse me. So we've just done our increase, and now we're going to go ahead and do 7 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And once you've done your 7 single crochets, we're going to do 2 increases. So do an increase in your very next stitch, and then into the very next stitch do another increase. So you've just done 2 increases. And now we're going to go ahead and do 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And into our last stitch, we're going to do an increase. Excuse me. And now you're done with round number 2. You should have a total of 23 stitches. And now you're going to go ahead and remove your stitch marker and place it right in front of the very last stitch that you've just done. And now you can go ahead and count back from 23, because we have 23 stitches all around, and find your first single crochet. And now we're going to go ahead and start round number 3. So for round number 3, we're going to start off with doing 2 increases. So go ahead and do an increase in your first stitch and an increase in your next stitch. And then we're going to go ahead and do 7 single crochets. Excuse me. Once you have your 7 single crochets, you're going to go ahead and do an increase. And once you've done your increase, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So 1 single crochet in the next, and 1 single crochet in the next. And then we're going to go ahead and do another increase. Now we're going to do 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Once you've done your 8 single crochets, we're going to do an increase in your next stitch. And then in your last stitch, we're just going to do 1 single crochet. And now you're done with round 3. For round 3, you should have a total of 28 stitches. And now you're just going to go ahead and move your stitch marker up. And we're going to start round 4. So for round 4, we're going to start off by doing 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do an increase. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next 7 stitches. Once you've done your 7 single crochets, we're going to do 2 increases. So an increase in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch. After your 2 increases, we're going to do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do 2 more increases. So an increase in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches. Once you've done your 7 single crochets, we're going to do 2 increases. So an increase in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch. And then for our last stitch, we're just going to do 1 single crochet. And now you're done with round 4. Now that you're done with round 4, we're done with all of the increase rounds. Now for rounds 5 to 7, we're going to just single crochet all around, keeping a stitch count of 35. So we've just finished round 4, you should have a total of 35 stitches. Just go ahead and move your stitch marker up and do 3 rounds of single crochets. So for rounds 5, 6, and 7, you're just going to single crochet all around, keeping a stitch count of 35, and I will meet you when I'm done. Feel free to pause the video. I've just finished round number 7. I've done my 3 rounds of continuous single crochets, and now I'm just going to go ahead and move my stitch marker up. And now we're going to go ahead and start round 8, which is going to be the beginning of our decrease rounds. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to do 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do a decrease. I like to do the invisible decrease method, which is just to insert your hook through the first loop of the first stitch, and then insert your hook through the first loop of the second stitch, like so. Grab yarn, pull through both of the loops. You have 2 loops on your hook, grab yarn and pull through both of them. But if that's too hard, then you can do a decrease however you feel comfortable, but that's how I'm going to be doing my decreases. Anyway, for round 8, we're just going to continue the pattern of doing 3 single crochets and a decrease all the way around. So just do 3 single crochets and a decrease all the way around until you get to the very end. So I have 3 single crochets, and I'm going to do a decrease. I'm going to do another 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to do a decrease. And you're just going to go ahead and repeat 3 single crochets and a decrease all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. Feel free to pause the video until you're done with the round. I'm here at the end of round 8. I just have to do my last decrease. And now I have completed round 8. Now we're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker and start round 7. So for round 7, we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease all the way around until you get to the very end. So again, our repeat pattern for round number 9 is to do 2 single crochets and a decrease all the way around until you get to the very end. And feel free to pause the video and meet me when we're done. I've just finished round number 9. I have a total of 21 stitches, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add the face. You should see that your rice portion of your sushi is closing, which is good. That's how it's supposed to look like. But now we're just going to go ahead and add the eyes. I'm not yet going to move my stitch marker, but if you have, it's fine. As long as you have a total stitch count of 21, it's going to be fine. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and loosen up our yarn so it doesn't come undone. And we're going to go ahead and grab our yarn and our darning needle. If you have button-on eyes, feel free to use button-on eyes, but I couldn't find them at my local store, so I'm just going to be showing you how to sew on the eyes. And this is how it looks like. Sure, button-on eyes look a little better, but I'm working with what I have. So what we're going to do is first, we're going to go ahead and sew on the smile, which is going to be opposite of where our stitch marker is. So this is where our stitch marker is, and this is where our yarn is. We're going to be working in the front portion right here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and find our middle. So to find our middle, you see these this line in the middle of our rice. That is the beginning chain that we did, which marks our center. So we're just going to go ahead and find a midpoint down, and that's going to be where the corner of your mouth is going to be. So I'm just going to put my mouth 1, 2, 3 stitches, 3 rows above our last row that we did, and I'm just going to go ahead and find our center, which is right over here. So I'm going to insert my needle from the inside like so, and again I put it in 3 rows above our last row that we just did. So 1, 2, 3 right here, and it is matching with our center of the rice. So we're just going to go ahead and pull that through, and that's going to be the bottom corner of your mouth because we're going to make a V-shaped mouth. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and find the stitch that's right above it. You're not gonna work into that. Instead, you're gonna find the stitch that's right next to it to the right, and insert your needle through that stitch or through that hole, and you're just going to pull your yarn through like so. I personally like doing the mouth with thinner yarn, but I currently don't have that. So I'm just gonna be using thick yarn for both the eyes and the mouth. And now we're going to do the exact same thing, but for the opposite side. So find the little hole that's right above our corner of the mouth, and now we're going to find the left side. So you're going to go ahead and insert your hook through the inside of the rice and push it through that hole. Pull it through, and now you're going to go ahead and grab your yarn, bring it through the very first hole that we brought it through in the beginning, and just pull it through. And there you have your mouth. You can go ahead and adjust it however you'd like, make it loose or make it as tight as you want. And then once you have your mouth placed the way that you would like it, you're just going to go ahead and flip it inside out just a teeny bit, and you're going to go ahead and knot it in place. Make sure not to knot it too tightly because then it's going to ruin the shape of your mouth, but just knot it enough so it doesn't get undone if anyone holds it. Just make sure that it's tight enough so it doesn't get undone. And once you think that it's knotted enough, you're going to go ahead and just snip off the excess piece of yarn. And now we're going to go ahead and add the eyes. So the eyes are going to depend on how you like them. You can either put the eyes on the same row to have like a little cartoonish effect, or you can put them on the row above your mouth. So what I mean by that is, this is where your V is, your mouth. You can add your eyes on the same row, or you can add them on the row above. I'm personally a fan of doing the above row, but it's completely up to you. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and find the end of your mouth right here, go up one row. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip one in between and insert my hook into this hole right here from the inside. So I'm going to show you that right now. Pull that through. So that's where my eye is going to be. So I skipped this section right here and this stitch right here, and I inserted into this one. And now I'm just going to go ahead and pull my yarn through. And now I'm going to go ahead and go through the hole right underneath and pull it through like so. You can leave it like that, or you can add a couple of layers, which is what I'm going to do. And how I add layers is I just go ahead and go through back and forth a couple of times, which I will do off camera. But you're basically just going to go in back and forth until you have the thickness of your eye that you want. So just go ahead and go back and forth, and I'll meet you when I'm done with this eye. Once you have your thickness of your eye, you're just going to go ahead and flip it inside out and tie your yarn together, just like how we did for the mouth. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other eye off camera. And you're basically going to do the exact same thing for the other eye. So find your stitch right above this corner of your mouth, skip the one right after, and insert your hook right after. So you're going to go ahead and insert your hook through this stitch right here. So skip 1, 2, and then insert it through the third one. And I will do that off camera. Okay, so I've just done the other eye, and this is how it turned out. Now we're going to go ahead and add the blush. So go ahead and grab your pink yarn and attach it to your darning needle. And how you're going to add the blush is you're going to go ahead and, you know, this little underneath portion where you made your eye using this stitch and this stitch. We're going to go ahead and insert our hook through the stitch right next to the bottom of the eye. So go ahead and bring your yarn through from the inside and pull it. And then go ahead and go where your eye is from the underneath, so the same stitch, and just pull it through like so. And there you have your blush. You can go ahead and just tighten it up a little bit if you'd like. And with the same yarn, you don't have to cut it. Do the exact same thing for the other side, like so. And there you have your blush. Now you're going to go ahead and tie both ends together. I know that the inside looks like a mess, but it's okay. It's going to be closed and no one's going to see it unless, you know, they decide to rip it open, but by then it's going to, you know, be a mess anyway, so it's fine. So just go ahead and knot up the blush portion in place and snip off the yarn. And there you have your face. And now we're going to continue crocheting. So we left off on round number 9, and we have a total of 21 stitches. Now we're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker up, and we're going to start. So the repeat pattern for our round 10 is going to be 1 single crochet and 1 decrease all the way around. Again, that's 1 single crochet and 1 decrease all the way around until you get to the very end. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet you when I'm done. I've just finished round number 10. I have a total of 14 stitches. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove our stitch marker, and we're not going to need it anymore because we are now done with our rice portion. And now all we have to do is stuff it, and I'm going to go ahead and stuff it with some fabric that I have. I don't have any cotton, I just have some fabric that I've washed and reused, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. So to finish off our rice portion, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into our very next stitch, chain 1, and you're going to want to cut a long strand of yarn, I'd say about 6 to 12 inches, and pull it through. Now tighten it up. Now it's all fastened off. Now we're going to go ahead and stuff this, which I will do off camera, and then I'm going to show you how to sew this whole together, and then we're going to go on and move to the actual portion that goes on top of the rice. So go ahead and stuff it, and I will meet you when I'm done. So I've gone ahead and stuffed up my rice portion, and I just used some cut up pieces of fabric. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and just squeeze this hole together, and we're just going to go ahead and sew in back and forth. So just go ahead and bring your yarn through back and forth like so, evenly going across. And once you're done, you're just going to pull on it and it closes up the hole, and now you're just going to go ahead and knot it in place. And you're going to go ahead and hide the tail. And once you're done hiding the tail, go ahead and snip that off. And now you're done with the rice portion. Now I'm going to go over how to do the top portion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be working on the pink portion, and we're going to be making two of the exact same pieces. And how this top portion is going to work is it's going to be exactly the same as rounds 1 through 4 of the rice. I'm still going to go over it, so you won't have to rewind the video for this part. But I will only be showing you how to make one of the pieces, and then the other piece you can just rewind back to where I have my pink yarn, and you can make your second piece. So anyway, again, this top portion is going to be 4 rounds, and those 4 rounds are going to be exactly the same as the first 4 rounds of our rice, but I will go over it right now. So again, we're going to go ahead and make our slip knot, and we're going to go ahead and, oops, I'm so sorry. We're going to go ahead and chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have a chain of 9. We're going to go ahead and skip the first one and insert our hook into the second one, and we're going to do 7 single crochets. And as you can see, I like working in the back bumps just because when you turn it around, it's a lot easier to work with later. I have 5, 6, and 7. And into our last chain, we're going to do 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, then turn your work around, 3, and 4. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the opposite side, and we're going to do 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in our last stitch we're going to do an increase. And we're going to go ahead and grab our stitch marker, which I have lost. Give me 1 second. I will be using a white stitch marker this time. So we're going to go ahead and place your stitch marker right where we ended our first round. We should have a total of 19 stitches, and we're going to start round 2. Round 2, we're going to start off with an increase, and then we're going to do 7 single crochets. Once we have our 7 single crochets, we are going to go ahead and do 2 increases. So do an increase in 1 stitch, and then do an increase in the next stitch. And after you're done your 2 increases, you're going to do 8 single crochets. And after you've done your 8 single crochets, you're going to do an increase. Now you're going to move your stitch marker up, and we're starting round 3. For round 3, we're going to do 2 increases, And then we're going to do 7 single crochets. Once you've done your 7 single crochets, we are going to do another increase. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets. And then another increase. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 8 stitches. And then you're going to go ahead and do an increase in the next stitch and a single crochet in your last stitch. Now we're done with round 3. Now we're going to do our final round, which is round number 4. Move your stitch marker up, and to start round 4, we're going to do 3 single crochets. And then we're going to do an increase. And then we're going to do 7 single crochets. And then we're going to do 2 increases. Then we're going to do 3 single crochets. And then we're going to do 2 more increases. Then we're going to do 7 single crochets. Then we're going to do 2 more increases. And then in our last stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. Now go ahead and remove your stitch marker, slip stitch into your very last stitch, chain 1, and you're going to want to cut a long strand of yarn, I'd say about 12 or more inches, and pull it through. And now what you're going to do is you're going to rewind the video, make the exact same piece like this, except don't cut as long of a tail, cut a smaller tail, because we're only going to be sewing one side. So make another piece exactly like this, and I'll meet you once you're done. I've just gone ahead and made both of my pieces. They're exactly the same. Now we're going to go ahead and add rice onto one of them, which are these lines right here. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and grab one of our pieces. Either or is fine. I'm going to use the one with the smaller tail just because it's easier to show on camera. And now what you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and however you add the rice is completely up to you. You can do it sideways, you can do it the way I did. You're just going to insert your hook through one of the stitches, making sure that you're going through the not so good looking side and the good looking side is facing you. And you're going to go ahead and bring your yarn through like so. And then you're going to go ahead and find a stitch that's right on the opposite side of that. And you're going to go ahead and insert it through that stitch right there. And I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time, just because I like the layers. I'm going to go ahead and pull on that, and I'm going to pull it through back through the same loop. And now I have one of the rice pieces done. You can add one line in the middle, but I think the seaweed portion is going to cover it, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and use the same exact yarn, go on the opposite side, on the same row, and do the exact same thing. And once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and flip it inside out and knot them both into place. And then when you're done knotting it in place, go ahead and snip off the excess yarn, put that to the side. Now we're going to go ahead and sew both of these pieces together. So go ahead and attach your long strand of yarn to your darning needle. I've gone ahead and attached it, and now what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that both of the nice sides are facing outwards, and the bad sides, the not so good looking sides, are facing inwards, like this. Good sides are facing out and you can't see the inward sides. And you're just going to put them together evenly, and you're just going to go ahead and sew them together. So to sew them together, you're just going to weave the yarn in back and forth like so. Going through each and every stitch, both sides should have an even amount. And even, let's say that you accidentally miscounted and you have a couple of less stitches on one and a couple of more stitches on the other, it's okay. As long as you just sew it evenly, it's not going to look different unless the person you're giving it to counts it, which I don't think is going to happen. So it's completely fine. You just have to sew it evenly. So just continue sewing it in back and forth very lightly. Don't pull on the yarn too much or else it's going to start zigzagging, and I'm not really a fan of that. Just go ahead and sew this in back and forth, and I'll meet you when I'm done sewing it all together. I've just gone ahead and sewed everything together in this little piece of yarn. You can just tuck in. Just grab your scissors and snip it off, or just tuck it into your sushi portion. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish it off by going through one more time, like so, going through that way, and then knotting it in place. And now you can do one of two things. You can either go ahead and tuck this yarn into this, snip it off, and grab a new strand of yarn, or you can use the same yarn that's on your darning needle to sew it onto this. And I think that I have enough, so I'm going to do that, but it's completely up to you. So what you want to do is you just want to place this on top of your rice, and you're just going to sew it on. So the way you sew it is completely up to you. I'm just going to insert my darning needle through one of the stitches, and I'm just going to sew it in back and forth like so. I'm not really worried about the turnout because compared to what my other ones, I'm pretty sure this one's going to turn out just the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew it in back and forth, sewing the pink portion onto the rice like that, and do that, and I'll meet you when I'm done. Once you're done sewing on the top portion, just go ahead and hide your yarn in your project like so, and then snip off the yarn. And now we're going to go ahead and work on the sushi, I forgot what it's called, but we're going to work on this portion now. I finally figured out the word. It is seaweed. So we're going to work on the seaweed portion, and we're going to start off by making a slip knot with our black yarn and chaining 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip the very first chain and work into our second one and do 4 single crochets. Once we've done our 4 single crochets, we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in each of the 4 stitches. Chain 1 and turn, do your 4 single crochets, and that is basically going to be a repeat. So we're going to continue doing 4 single crochets, chain 1, turn, until you have the length of your seaweed that wraps around your sushi. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet you when you're done. I've just made the length of my seaweed, and I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, which I've just done, and we're going to cut a long strand of yarn. Again, I'd say about more than 12 inches, and then we're going to go ahead and pull it through, and we're going to go ahead and attach our darning needle to our black yarn. I've just gone ahead and attached my darning needle to my yarn, and now we're just going to go ahead and place our seaweed where we want it to be. Also, one thing that I wanted to point out, this is how I made this one and my yellow one that you saw in the thumbnail, but I'm not a fan of how the sushi turned out on this one. It is how you make it, but I think my sewing sort of got messy towards the front, so that's why it kind of looks a little weird. But I just wanted to point that out. Not really a fan of it, but Again, you can undo the sewing and then redo it. I'm just not going to do it for the sake of the video. Anyway, you place your seaweed onto your sushi, and underneath we're just going to go ahead and sew both portions together. You can sew it off of the sushi. I think that's easier, so just put them together and then sew in both together like so. You have 4 stitches, just weave it in back and forth through the 4 stitches. Once you've sewn in the 4 stitches, you're just going to go ahead and place it back onto your sushi. Just like slide it back on, and once you've found the place that you want it to be, making sure that the sewn part is at the bottom, now you're just going to go ahead and start sewing. Sew it however you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and insert my darning needle through the seaweed portion and the sushi portion, and I'm just going to go ahead and weave it in back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave in this side, and then once I get all the way around, I'm going to weave in the other side. So we're just going back and forth, and I'm going to do that off camera, so go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you when I'm done. Once you're done sewing, you're just going to go ahead and knot it at the bottom, like so, and then bring your yarn through underneath the black yarn, like so, and then you're going to snip it off. And then for this little strand of yarn, you're going to grab your hook, go through one of the stitches of your black yarn, grab your black yarn, and pull it through underneath the yarn so you don't see it anymore. Oh, mine keeps getting stuck, which is fantastic. Oh no! I'm struggling. That's once you've gotten it through, finally, you're just going to go ahead and snip it off. And there you have your sushi. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you want to see next. For my next video, I plan on showing you guys how to make a octopus, because I figured out how to make a cute little octopus, and I think it looks really nice. So I'm going to show you a tutorial next Thursday. So if you want to see that, please subscribe and ring the bell. Anyway, again, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye!